Hello and welcome everyone to another episode of the Cultured Nerd Podcast. This week, we're doing another one this week. So this is going to be episode 27, the Tuesday episode of this week. And just like I mentioned yesterday with the big G.I. Joe Transformers video, fans want to talk about DC, and I wanted a little break, but fans keep wanting to talk about DC. So we're going to talk about DC a little bit. So on this episode, we're going to talk about The Flash. How the movie came out over the weekend. It's not hitting its numbers, and Twitter is a terrible place right now. Twitter is just eating this movie alive, unapologetically and kind of undeservingly. But they're just being ridiculous. And the reality is that, just like Shazam and Black Adam before it, this film is not getting the chance from the fans, and it's going to more than likely die a very painful death. And it's because the fans are just being relentless. So we're going to sit down. We're going to talk about what we thought about the movie, what we thought about the current outcry on the internet, and we're going to break down all those little spoilers that have been coming out, like the other endings, the previous cuts, the other details, and everything in between. So let's talk about The Flash. So, as I said yesterday, Michael has yet to see The Flash, so we're going to do something without him. This time, I'm going to bring in TJ from the Cultured Nerd. He is, if you've been around long enough, you should know who he is. But on the interwebs, on Twitter, for instance, he's definitely on Twitter, and he fights the good fight with a lot of people. He's been with us since the beginning, and he also has some thoughts about the Flash movie and what is happening with this ridiculous notion of the fans right now. So, first off, thank you for joining us. And we may have another person joining us later. GeekBurrito himself, Gabe, is going to try and join us sometime as in the show, but we will see how that goes. But first things first, you saw The Flash over the weekend, and you, unlike half of Twitter right now, or the majority of Twitter, you didn't hate it.
No. So I saw it. I saw it Friday. I took the day off of work. I saw it Friday, like mid-afternoon, 3:30. And
Okay.
The theater I saw was, I would say, it was at least 80-90% packed. It was a good theater. Everyone was kind of into it, cheering the parts that needed cheering, and probably people around our age, I want to say, because a lot of people were pretty stoked on some of the nostalgic factor, which it was, right? It was heartfelt.
Yeah.
It was nostalgic. It was fun. Like, let's not beat around the bush. It's a fun movie. Like, it's not whatever people are just, if you look hard enough to find something to complain about, you'll find it in anything. I mean, literally, you can find anything to complain about in anything that you do, that you enjoy. But the movie was fun, man. Like, I mean, it's The Flash in a movie. You get two Batmen, maybe more. And all in all, it was action packed, but it actually, like, it made you feel something. And if you didn't, you're just kind of just looking to hate on it or not give it a chance. Fans are doing to this movie what they said the critics did to Batman vs Superman. They're not giving it a chance before it even comes out. Before half of these people didn't even see the movie, and they're just reading these, other people's reviews on it, which forms a bias in their mind before they even watch the movie. And then it's just, it can be quicksand for anyone who's that kind of a mindset, right?
Yeah, and then that's kind of it. I mean, the movie is what it is, and spoilers for anyone who hasn't seen it yet, but for most of the people who have seen it, it's pretty apparent that we're going to talk about it. But so I saw the movie as well. I saw it Friday as well. I took my son to see it at the matinee showing, the first showing of the day, which was like a noon showing, I guess. I don't know. I kind of miss the days where you could see movies at 10 o'clock, but they don't do that anymore, which is dumb. I saw the noon showing. GeekBurrito actually came with me. My wife was supposed to take the third ticket, but our kid got sick, so he last second he took the ticket and came with us. And it's interesting because I see a lot of these complaints online about people saying, "Oh, the CGI is terrible," or this is that, and right, I mean, there was some issues with the CGI. The CGI was a little wonky at some points, but nothing that was like, "Oh my god, the movie is." Nothing like Scorpion King, where like you're like, "Wow, that's clearly an action figure fighting uh,
Right.
these characters." Like, it was nothing as bad as some of the people are making it out to be. And honestly, I've seen worse CGI in some Marvel movies lately, so it's like I don't know what they're bitching.
It's also, you go to the movies to at least suspend reality a little bit, right? So if
Yeah,
there's a little hic, and it's a superhero movie. It's the
yeah,
Flash. It's multiverse. It's going to be riddled with CGI. You're not going to get it perfect. And I know the complaints would be like, well, it was pushed back so much. So, yeah, you know what? There's a lot of changes, and sometimes when you make a shit ton of changes, you just can't get it everything right all the time. Like you,
right. And I think
unfortunately, in
that's the
VFX from Snyder. So it's like, you come on, like we're
yeah.
nitpicking straws here. Like,
I see all these complaints and I see all this just unnecessary hatred toward the movie, and it's almost laughable um, because it's very undeserving. And I mean, the movie is exactly what it is. I mean, the movie was made to be a reboot. It always was. It was always meant to end whatever universe that it was coming from. But the difference is that during production, Zack Snyder's Justice League came out, and a lot of Zack's own CGI workers, his own VFX team, worked on this film. And I've actually talked to a few of them, and they're pissed at the fans right now. They think that
yeah,
the fans are being ungrateful. They're like, wow, they're hating on this movie in the name of Zack, but we're the same people that worked on Zack's films, and you're being cruel. And they're all upset. I've some of them. I'm not going to name names because they have very choice words about the fandom right now, but they almost kind of deserving, where they're just like basically like F these clowns. Like they don't deserve Zack in DC if this is how they're going to act towards the people that helped make Zack's movies the way they were, which is unfortunate.
yeah.
But
It's just they're 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 holding anyone that they can accountable for the studio not bringing Zack back when Zack's on an exclusive deal with Netflix, and it's
yeah,
just like you said, like you have been saying for over a year. It's like nothing could have happened. So the more just of this anger spewing toxic thing, it's just pushing whatever goal that they have in mind. It's just pushing it further and further and further in a way. Because the Flash movie could have been so fun for everyone to just enjoy. You still get, Zack Snyder's Justice League is canon, is it not? So um, it's just no one wants to put their arms around it. But
yeah,
and no one, like, everyone uses like Rotten Tomatoes when they want to use it or not want to use it when they don't. And
right.
I think I saw like the audience scores at like an 86%, right? So
Well, it's getting review bombed by now by people who haven't even seen the movie, which is just laughable because they're bombing the movie thinking that they're going to get their way. But like I got basically booed off of Twitter the other day, and I basically said to hell with all of Twitter because I just thought what they were doing is just stupid, and I left. But in the process of it, I kind of went on this big rant on Instagram where I basically was like, you know what, I'm just gonna tell you all how it is. And in my rant, I didn't say anything new. I just said the exact same thing that I keep saying for the past year. And apparently that offended some people because they were like, you've been holding on to this? I'm like, no, I've not been holding on to this. This has been what I've been saying for over a year now on the podcast. You guys aren't paying attention. Let me go ahead and pull up what I said in just a straight line because I even got people attacking me for how I said it, which was laughable. But it's been good because it turns into a good litmus test to block people because I'm like, oh, okay, now I know I need to block from this account too.
It's just being reasonable at some point about a movie, about superheroes, about a universe that's within another universe and multiverse and so on and so forth, where there's going to be new characters, new actors playing the same characters that you've seen at least 3 more times in our lifetimes, so like,
easily.
It's like giving me a head. It's like, come on, can we just
in my own lifetime, I've had had Keaton, Kilmer, Clooney, Bale, Affleck, and Pattinson as Batman.
Right. And
right?
and we've watched. I mean, it was before us, but you and I both enjoyed Adam West.
We grew up with Adam West. Like that was the Batman. It was like you would watch Michael Keaton on the movie, and then you would watch hours of Adam West.
Yeah, right.
So
right, when everyone gets turned into powder, like how can you forget that movie?
Oh my god, that whole movie! They were like, "We're gonna dissolve the council or whatever," and turns them all to powder. That was an insane movie.
Hey, great movie, by the way. Great movie.
Yeah. It's exactly what it was meant to be.
We'll get hammered today. We'll get hammered today.
All right, so I put in here, I'm like, these clowns have pretty much guaranteed Zach will never come back. No joke. Conversations among the studio producers were clear. Warner Brothers Discovery was interested in talking with Zach after his contract with Netflix was finished. But now the toxic fan base has burned that bridge for him. These clowns who keep saying restore the Snyderverse in every tweet or have restore the Snyderverse in their bios and then tweet constantly fire James Gunn in their tweets on a daily basis are the cause of this issue. They are now the reason that Zach will never be invited back. The reality is that Zach was under contract with Netflix, and these people that caused Zach to take that contract were actually fired. They're gone. So the people who are now in charge have nothing to do with the issue. They couldn't do anything until he was done with that contract anyways, and DeLuca and Abdi and even Gunn were all talking about bringing Zach back eventually when he was free. But now the truth is, the fans are acting like an entitled terrorist group that harassed the studio on every turn, on every post, on every aspect of everything on the internet. And now David Zaslav, among all of them, are realizing that this is not even healthy. We can't encourage this. We can't allow it to go further. And I put in, like, I mean, hell, they even retooled The Flash to include references to Zack Snyder's Justice League. They made Zack Snyder's Justice League canon for the fans, and now the same fans are crucifying the film like it never should have existed.
I saw that, and then I saw that,
that was
saying, like, well, why didn't you tell us
that one reply?
But you know what's funny is
that one reply.
If you I don't know, you already said it before, but if you actually told people like, hey, you know, maybe you shouldn't, or else, you know, Zach might not be able to come back.
But
everyone still tells
I literally have been. That's the thing.
I know. But they wouldn't believe you anyways.
Like I literally had been.
They didn't.
Like, they're like, oh, you'll just make up the scoop like every other scoop that you've made up. And I'm like, okay, yeah, if that's the argument that you're going to take, then I'm just not going to even talk anymore. And then I posted that, and one of the first messages I got, you can go ahead and delete me and block me after this. I don't care. I won't be around your page ever again. The fact that you held on this information until now, and you could have said something to calm the masses down, really just pisses me off. You reveal this in a way, the way that you're now at this time just shows what a spiteful little man child. You are. You need to take a look. I mean, I shared that, and this guy just completely just lost it. Said that I shared that, and I got like at least 90 to 150 responses of people saying, "But you have been saying that for over a year and a half. Does this guy not look at the podcast? Does he not look at your weekly stories?" And I'm like, no, he doesn't care, because every time I do a weekly Q&A, I say the same thing. Every time I talk about it on the podcast, I say the same thing. Zach is busy with Netflix. He can't do anything until he's done with Netflix. The studio cannot wait for him, but they're going to talk about it when he's free. But now they don't even want to talk about it, because the reality is these fans destroyed any goodwill that was left.
But he also said, couldn't you have calmed the masses? Has anyone calmed these masses since it started?
I mean, I think of all those stories from like the Bible. Yeah. I feel like there's plenty of stories in the Bible where the prophets stand up and say, "Hey, everyone, calm down. It's not a big deal." And then there's one guy that said, "Fuck that guy," and like shoots an arrow at him.
Tomatoes.
Like the masses can't be calmed when they're irrational. That's not how it works.
It wasn't calm when it started with the Restore the Snyderverse. It was always rampant, but now it's like taking on a monster. It's a different turn now. Like now it's not supportive. Now it's something else.
But it's funny because you have all these people who also are hating on the movie because of Ezra Miller and saying, "Oh, he's this, he's that, he's that." But then the studio didn't fire him because the studio knows the truth of the situation. And there's even people online. I want to pull up a thread here just to show that people online have literally found proof and evidence against every accusation he has been on. So, updated, fact check the claims against Ezra Miller. The legal matters are resolved, but the media still hasn't followed up on the allegations, rumors that they reported in 2022. So I did. If you've read a rumor about Ezra Miller, chances are it's been addressed here. Boop, and then starts off his little thank you. And then go on. Ezra Miller choked a woman. False. A clip posted on 4/1/2020 shows Ezra Miller using a trained maneuver to lower a woman to the ground. Slowed footage shows their hand is not around their throat, but to the side of their neck. She was not being choked. And this is actually why she didn't sue Ezra, because he literally grabs her on the collarbones and drops her to the ground. And the whole clip that you find online, she says, hey, let's do this. And she was kind of encouraging this to make a funny video out of it.
Saw that. Yeah.
All right.
Years ago.
And it even says right here, contrary to the popular accusation that Ezra Miller slammed her to the ground, it's clear from the slow footage that Ezra was taking care to brace her descent so she wouldn't actually fall or be hurt. And then there's even little tweets and details about this. All right. Sure. The clip is only about 7 seconds long. It lacks context. When asked for more information, the source refused to answer and deleted the clip instead just 6 days later. And here's more details about, and here's GeekBurrito. I'll bring him in here. Hey, Gabe.
So, Gabe.
We're going over the accusations against Ezra Miller that have all been proven false and how they've been proven false, because I think people need to stop attacking Ezra for something that's not actually true. So the clip's only about 7 seconds long, lacks context. When asked for more information, the source refused to answer, deleted the clip instead. And here is an entire thread about the lady saying, I was asked by a participant in the video to delete it from my page for privacy reasons. Please respect my privacy as well. Stop mentioning me in the conversation regarding this issue. And then people kind of just attacking her about this, right? Because they already made up their mind, despite the fact that the person who was choked said that's not true. Okay. In 2020, a Reddit user claiming to be the woman's friend left a comment making multiple claims about the incident, including the police were called to pick Miller up. These directly contradict the statements released by the police on 4/8/2020. So not only was the accusation that this was a real thing contradicting the story, look right here, officers were never called, blah, blah, blah. And they even said never called. Like, again, fabricated situation.
It's kind of crazy that kind of stuff isn't like cleared up after it's like plastered on the news.
Yeah. A spokesperson for the police stated they were not called to the scene. So even the police denied being called, and no injuries were reported. However, in 2022, an anonymous woman claiming to be the victim told journalists the police were called. So the woman who was actually in the situation was identified, publicly said it wasn't real. And now an anonymous person came forward claiming to be that person, said it was all real, despite the fact that the police already denied that it was a real thing.
A Freedom of Information Act request would clear that up real quick.
Yeah.
If it's already been done, if there's nothing that's been found, there's nothing that's there.
Right. As journalists have now reported conflicting information, it is unclear whether due diligence was done to verify the woman's identity or the claims. As Miller's mother has reminded them, it's a journalist's job to separate the false from the truth. And here we go with the Variety incident, where Variety says, oh, we spoke to this, blah, blah, blah. Ezra was a solid. And then, again, Ezra's Miller attacking these people, saying, the betrayal of the supposed media is stunning. It is your job to separate what is false from true. And then ended the conversation. Like, I'm not talking to you anymore. Another, again, and money, this thread goes on for a while. This is going to cover up everything, which is insane. On 6/16/22.
Journalism. The journalists.
Yes. Journalism is dead at this point. On 6/16/22, a friend of Miller stated in a tweet that the woman had spent a day stalking and harassing them before the incident. This would make it an act of self-defense by Miller. According to the tweet, Warner Brothers and police are aware of the full context of the situation, which is true. Warner Brothers and the police were fully aware. None of them filed anything. No charges were made because there's nothing. Okay. The choking incident was preceded by the person stalking and attacking them over several days. This is why WB never made waves about it. The police knew of this in Iceland, and that's why they didn't press charges. Okay? The description of the woman's behavior was corroborated by witnesses in Iceland. In the comments in a local article about the incident, they described Miller as attempting to leave the situation to avoid harassment. The woman and her friends seem to have forced a filmed confrontation. And here's more details corroborating that truth. And for anyone who wants to see this whole thread, I can share it. It's fantastic. Claim Ezra Miller attacked people in a bar. Again, inaccurate. On 3/28, Miller was arrested for disorderly conduct at Margarita Village in Hawaii. And mind you, you and I have talked about this multiple times, TJ, and this situation is honestly laughable again. And you told me plenty of reasons why this is a laughable situation. But according to social media posts, an argument began over queerphobic remarks made by another customer. Here's some more details of, here it is, the little point. Ezra got into drama with some Hawaiian bros who called him out for being queer, and then the cops were called and they got aggressive with Ezra. That's the whole brunt of it. Okay? According to the post, the other customer became aggressive. This is supported by the body cam footage of Ezra's arrest. The man is confrontational throughout and asks the police, "Are you going to light him up, or am I going to light him up?" And there's video right here of the footage. Okay. In addition to the alleged queerphobic comments, Miller told police that Ezra had video evidence of a man claiming to be a Nazi and threatening him, and the police could be heard responding, "Okay, and so?" Okay. Ultimately, Miller pled no contest for disorderly conduct and paid the $500 fine that was required of him. However, it is clear from the evidence above that their actions were in self-defense against the attempted hate crime. So again, and even you said that on the island of Hawaii, if something is really happening, everyone knows about it. But the fact that nobody knew about it meant nothing was really happening.
Right.
And the fact that there was news reports saying Ezra's in police custody while Ezra was watching that TV. You said that there's a video of Ezra watching, like at a barbecue, talking to people while the TV behind them says, "We have Ezra Miller in custody." I'm like, okay, this is ridiculous. They're blasting it saying that they have him arrested and he's right here at a barbecue. Yeah. Claim Ezra Miller robbed a couple. Presumed innocent. In March, a couple in Hawaii accused Miller, their guest at the time, of theft. The couple filed a TRO on 3/28, but no corresponding police reports, even though their allegations included a federal offense, passport theft. Here's the situation that they list off, everything that's there. Later the same day, the husband spoke about the incident on Reddit. He expressed his concern for Ezra's mental health, but also his intent to sell the paparazzi information about Miller.
Interesting.
Yeah, so here's a whole thread saying that they plan on selling the information to the highest bidder for more information. On 4/11, Miller's lawyer appeared in court in response to the TRO. The couple abruptly filed to dismiss it, and the court granted their request with prejudice, meaning the claim cannot be filed again in the same court. Their lawyer declined to comment as to why. So here's the accusation, and here's the paperwork showing that they filed to dismiss it with the press, and the lawyers started asking more questions about the situation.
Interesting.
So again, convenience.
It's kind of crazy, right? Like these are
It's
all
like
the things, like we're never.
These are all the things that people are now saying that, oh, Ezra did this, and they're all being debunked.
I always wonder too. Like, there's so many things that are coming out about this guy. Like, if he would be in jail, right? Like, if
any of it was true, yeah.
Right. And then I know other people are going to say, "Well, he's got money, he's a celebrity." But I mean, this is a lot of stuff.
This is a lot.
This is so much low-hanging fruit that if any of it were true, his celebrity status couldn't save him from any of it.
Right.
Right. He's not, like Bruce Willis, or you know what I mean. I love Bruce Willis, but like he's not Tom Cruise. He's not being completely saved by that. So
Ezra Miller doesn't have Tom Cruise hush money. That's what we're saying. On a 4/13 clip of Miller was posted on Instagram. In the comments, a friend of theirs alleged that the couple's claims were false, that they abused the TRO to exploit Miller. Their individual also observed that the media was not reporting the full story. which again is probably what happened. Because I mean, obviously, the media reported that Ezra was arrested. There's claims of theft, and then as soon as the claims were dismissed, the media didn't talk about it. They didn't say, "Oh, exonerated," or this or that. They just said, "Oh yeah, this happened," and just moved on. They tried to pretend like they never reported on it. As there is no clear evidence, no police investigation, no TRO, and there has been known ulterior motives at play, the claim cannot be conclusively proven or disproved. Therefore, Miller is presumed innocent by the court of law. Okay. Another claim. Ezra Miller threatened someone's life in a video. Again, inaccurate. In January 2022, Miller posted a video which they specifically addressed to the KKK chapter in Bellaville, North Carolina, not as an individual. References to the hate group and violence. So Ezra called out the KKK, and somehow this turned into an accusation that Ezra is threatening people's lives. But he was calling out the KKK for being racist.
That's one I didn't even hear about, but
I heard about that one. That was actually a ridiculous one. This video that Ezra posted was in response to the suspected arson of Miller's friend's home. The homeowner claimed to have seen someone fleeing after setting the fires. No one was injured, but she lost everything that she owned because of the accusation that their friends told Ezra that it was a KKK member that they knew of in the area. That's why Ezra posted things saying, "I want to mess you up for this hate crime." So that goes on. Miller's video does contain a vague threat, which the historically violent hate group may have taken seriously. Miller is reported to have received numerous credible death threats and have been attacked over the following months. Law enforcement had to regularly check on Ezra's safety. Right?
Sheesh.
So, yes, Ezra threatened somebody, but then the police had to protect Ezra for months. Okay. Multiple reports downplayed and mocked the potential danger. Miller was framed as being irrationally afraid and suspicious of everyone. The only proved instance of them expressing such concern was made directly to the police, who refused to view the video as evidence even after Miller offered. Here's the good one. Here's the biggest one. Claim Ezra Miller groomed a minor. That's the big one. Everyone keeps calling Ezra a groomer and a pedophile.
Right.
False. Ren Turner, Miller's stalker of 5 years, confessed to co-creating this rumor in 2018 with Mir Solange. She also named Takada Iron Eye's parents as helping her publicly defame Miller. So here is multiple tweets, text message, screenshots, all saying that this accusation was fabricated to destroy Ezra's career. In multiple confessions and interviews that were never reported, despite the fact that they directly corroborated that the alleged victims and a witness were saying the aforementioned people had ulterior motives and were lying to the media about them and Miller. And here's more details of Iron Eye saying this is a blatant betrayal, toxicity of my parents and others chose to punish me, blah, blah, blah. Then that goes to the next one. Here's more. Insider posted, this is what really happened. And then again, Dakota says, no, you take my stuff out of context. See, Evie's in there. I've set restraining order in place. They did not. They did this entire smear campaign to try to get the children taken from me so that they could get back at them from the state. And all of this stuff, again, actual posts from the victims saying none of this is true. This is the truth. None of this is true. Here's the actual truth. But no one cared about what the victim said because they had a story to sell. Next bit. Dakota also personally refuted their parents' claims many times. So if you actually go to this person's social media, every claim that was made, there's evidence against it and refutement against it. They accused their family of psychologically abusing them, undermining their autonomy, and weaponizing their cultural and spiritual beliefs against them. Since Dakota's parents were seeking permanent conservatorship over a legal adult, the court would have required her to undergo a psychiatric evaluation. Dakota is obviously competent and has also started therapy. Any grooming or manipulation would have been noticed. Here's more details about how this is all nonsense. Because this person wasn't a minor, this person was an adult. And the court didn't even bother with it because this situation is nonsense. The Standing Rock Court ruled in Dakota's favor in 7/12/22. Their parents claimed the odds were stacked against them, but it is more likely the court saw no reason to allow permanent conservatorship over a competent, capable adult. So not only were all of the accusations of the smear campaign useless, but the courts even went against the people making these claims. In June 22, a second protection order against Miller by Shannon Green was reported by the Daily Beast. Per a later report by NBC, it came after an argument with Miller and did not contain any allegations. So another accusation, no allegations. It was revealed by a mutual friend and witness that Green spoke to Chase Iron Eyes days before filing, around the same time Dakota publicly accused their father of fabricating the situation. More evidence against the accusation.
None of this stuff was in the news.
Yeah, exactly. Because the evidence is never good reading. The accusation's fun reading, but the evidence disproving it is a moot point. In an interview on Popcorn Planet, a friend of Green confronted Miller confirmed Miller had not personally done anything concerning to Green's child. She claimed Green was motivated by the stories that she heard about Dakota, which were all disproved. So again, they heard the stories, they made the accusations to basically be like, oh, it's happening to this person, it's happening to me too. So again, the only thing that was actually real was when Ezra broke into that person's house, stole a couple bottles of liquor, and went to court for it, and paid the fine and went to psychiatric treatment. That's the only real thing. Everything else was fabricated. And evidence clearly proves that it was all fabricated.
It's just not publicly known.
Nobody cares. Just nobody cares. Because the story that Ezra's a monster sells papers better.
I didn't know about all of the other evidence. So, like, all I know as just a normal person who has to work 5 days out of the week, it's you just hear the allegations, you hear of it, and then you don't hear anything else. You just see like the brush fire of hate behind it and the reasons why. But I've never heard any of that other stuff. That's kind of makes sense why he's not arrested or in jail. Interesting.
Yeah. It's honestly, it's a funny situation, but when you see people on Twitter and all these on social media just saying, oh, I'm not seeing this movie, I'm boycotting this movie because Ezra's this or that or this or that, and then you have the actual evidence saying none of that's true, it kind of makes the situation look really silly.
Yeah, just that's wild.
Yeah. But on all of that, I mean, aside from all of that, so The Flash came out. It's not doing terribly, but it's not doing great. Because unlike Black Adam, The Flash is getting a worldwide release.
Is it like a 55 million opening?
Yeah, so the actual current box office for The Flash right now is the domestic is currently sitting at 64 million. Internationally, it's at 74 million. Right now, worldwide, we're sitting at 138 million. Not too bad after 4 days. Not great, but this movie will likely get its money back. Unlike Shazam 2 and Black Adam, because neither of those movies cut even. So we'll see what happens over the next week.
It's a fun movie. I think the more people actually go out and try and watch it and enjoy it, like it's a fun movie to go watch.
It is a fun movie, and I think another thing that someone pointed out was that the biggest issue that this movie is facing isn't so much that they're using Keaton, but the audience is not responding to Keaton. It'd be like the audience that wants to see this movie, it would make more sense if they used Christian Bale than it would have been for Keaton, because Keaton is my audience and everyone above my age. But anyone below the age of 35, their Batman is Christian Bale. Even my son, when we watched this movie, he was like, wow, I could see why you like Michael Keaton so much. And I'm like, have you not watched the other movies? He's like, oh, I watched them, but I didn't grow up with them.
He didn't fight like that back in '89. I'll tell you that much. But that was pretty badass how they fight. Like, I thought that was some slick moves he had.
Yeah, and It's funny because behind the scenes you have all these situations where you know that there was 3 different endings to the film, and they had set up all these different things. The fact of the matter is, when Walter Hamada was in charge, this film, 90% of this film is still the same film that it started as.
Okay.
Everyone's saying that James Gunn came in and changed everything is ridiculous, because he gave them notes. They changed one thing based on the notes he gave, but he didn't dictate anything. He just said, hey, it's probably a good idea if you do this, because that's the reality. People are, again, looking for a villain where the villain doesn't exist. But in the original cut, in the original ending, the movie ends and Ezra wakes up, says, oh my gosh, it's time. He gets the note from Iris. He gets the new footage from Batman and says, oh my gosh, the court case. Runs the court case. His dad gets exonerated. Everything's happy. He leaves the court just the same way. He gets a call from Bruce, and then here's the original ending. Bruce Wayne pulls up, and it's Michael Keaton. And Flash is like, oh my God, I thought I changed this. And he says, well, guess you didn't change it enough, or something along those lines. And then as he's talking to him, all the cameras and people are screaming, oh my God, oh my God. And he looks over, and over in the background, Supergirl's flying down to come congratulate Barry on the court case. And everyone is like, oh my God, Supergirl. And he realizes that this new timeline, not only did they both survive, but now he's in this timeline with them. Cut to ending number... Oh, and then also as that goes on, the Aquaman scene was the same Aquaman scene. It was a post-credit Aquaman scene. He goes in, he tells him about the multiverse, says he's like, oh, I kept seeing different versions of Superman. I kept seeing this. He falls over drunk and everything. And then he's like, I got one question for you. Who the hell's Superman? And he's like, wait, what do you mean who's Superman? And that's when he realized that even after fixing all this, Superman does not exist in this timeline. So he's like, crap, I didn't fix it enough. Then he goes up to his apartment, and while he's in his apartment, portal opens up, Batfleck looks out and says, Barry, you have to find us, the crisis is coming. And then it closes. And that was the original ending.
Shit, okay? There's a crisis.
Yeah, they were setting up a crisis. That was Hamada's endgame, was after this, he's going to do his weird little timeline stuff, set up a crisis, and then kill everyone off and reboot the universe. Right? He was going to kill off everybody. That was the plan. Like, he was going to give them all 1 or 2 more films one more film with Henry, 1 more film with Ben, and then just murder them both in the film and restart the timeline.
I'm just trying to do the mental math in my head where what Barry has to change to end up with the Nicolas Cage Superman. Like that's all I'm doing. That's all I'm doing.
That's all we want, right? More of that.
And the second ending, after Hamada was fired, Abdi and DeLuca didn't know what to do with DC because they were too busy running Warner Brothers films. So they said, why don't we just add a couple more things as fan service, and then we can go from there. They kept all of that intact. The only difference is that scene after he sees Supergirl, then Superman flies down behind her, makes a reference about how they're going to do some adventures together, and he's going to show her the ropes some more. And then Wonder Woman shows up and congratulates Barry, and it's kind of just like, oh, everyone's here. Cool. And that was the only change. From my understanding, from when James Gunn and Peter Safran came in control, they were specifically hired to reboot the universe. That was what they were charged with. They were not told, do whatever you want. They were told, reset everything because this brand needs reinvigoration. So you're going to reboot everything. That was the plan. That's why they were hired. That was the plan. So obviously the rejected pitches for Wonder Woman 3, because they were already rejected by Abdi and DeLuca, the rejected pitches for Wonder Woman 3, the rejected pitch for Superman's new film, they were just solidified. And because neither of them had a new contract in place, they were just told, okay, you guys got to have the hard talk with them and tell them that they're just not going to get hired again. The contracts are already over. They're just not getting renewals. And that was, so everyone's saying, oh, they were fired. You can't fire someone who doesn't have a job.
Yeah,
you can't. Seriously, you can't. So that was that. So when James Gunn came in, from my understanding, from what everyone has told me, the only note he gave was, let's not make the situation worse for fans. Let's take out the ending that leads nowhere. And he told them to change the ending entirely, take out the Supergirl scene, take out Superman, take out Wonder Woman's cameo at the end, take out Michael Keaton, and do just that whole sequence as a quick gag with a new Batman to show that Barry's not home again. And that's it.
That's it.
And that's how the Clooney thing came about. It was just a quick bit like, hey, how about we just have the obvious revelation that he's not home and just call it there.
And I know people are losing their shit because they think, is Clooney the main Batman now? And it's like, no.
I mean, when back in February, when the announcement, when the stuff leaked, back in February, when everything leaked saying that he was going to be in the ending, James Gunn went onto Twitter and said, by the way, Clooney is not the DCU Batman. He debunked it in real time.
Yeah.
So the best way to kind of put it is what actually happened. And I'm gonna point this out again because this is something that I've been repeating myself on over the last week and a half. Okay. People who think that Ezra's Flash is going to try and change things again in a sequel. Obviously, the sequel is unlikely at this point because it's not going to make its money back, or it's going to make its money but not enough to justify another movie. Barry already went back in time and changed his mother's death and changed to save his dad. So the idea is that, he's going to fix it again. Is Barry really going to go back and condemn his dad again?
No.
He already went through all of this. He may just be like, he just kind of might cut his losses and say, this sucks, but at least my dad's alive and not in prison. Basically, the moral lesson of this film is that Barry realized he can't do that anymore. He changed one thing, one small detail again to save his dad and broke the universe again. But this time, that small change resulted in Clooney now being Batman, and that sucks for him, but that's where he's at.
Yeah.
If Barry wants Batfleck back, he has to undo the last thing he did and put his dad back in jail. So instead, Barry just accepts it and is now living in this new universe with Clooney as Batman. As we can see from the post-credit scene where he's now having beers with Aquaman, telling him about his adventures. He's not immediately saying, I got to fix it. He's like, that sucks. Let's get a beer. He just kind of dealt with it. The post-credit scene with Aquaman is also in this new Clooney-verse, obviously. Barry now lives there and is not changing it again. So the Clooney-verse is not the DCU. This is just the new universe that the DCU has become. The DCEU has become.
Yeah.
And in that logic, as with the same logic of the film, with the two spaghetti noodles, where if you change one thing, you change it in both directions, you can also argue that everything that did not line up with Zack Snyder's Justice League, which was canon to the Flash movie, is now part of this new Clooney-verse, where you can say the Suicide Squad, Birds of Prey, all of that, including Peacemaker Season 2, Waller, all of that stuff. You can argue that all of that's part of this new universe.
Or none of it.
Or none of it is, right?
Or none of it.
But we do know that at the end, Aquaman 2 takes place in this new timeline. That's what we do know.
It's a sad timeline because, let's be real, Clooney Batman could not hit on Wonder Woman and get her. No, sorry. Gonna have to say it.
He was the sexiest man alive 25 years ago, though, you know?
Yeah, they also put Paul Rudd as the sexiest man alive. And do you think Paul Rudd is going to pull Wonder Woman?
No. He's the
Only
sexiest man alive. We can
with jokes.
Only with the jokes. I mean, girls love humor, and he's got it in spades, so we'll see. But, again, the reality is they basically spent this movie, they gave us this ridiculous cameo, and I'm just going to just do the thing, just be like, boop, boop. That's it. That's all I give you. I don't want to get taken down. But they gave us this wonderful little Easter egg of a cameo just to basically say that Barry's not home again. And now Barry is kind of reclusing himself to that because He didn't immediately say, I screwed up. I got to go fix it. He's just like, okay, that sucks. I'm going to go get a beer with Aquaman.
I did like how Clooney played that off. Like, did you just say that out loud, Barry? Like,
I like that. He's like, but you're not Batman. He's like, Barry, Jesus. It's like, what are you doing?
We're out in public, dude. Like,
there's cameras right here.
He's like, Barry.
That was pretty funny.
Yeah. It was a fun movie. I love the multiverse part when they started showing like I don't know, like No Way Home, right? Had all those like little nostalgic hits and everything. Granted, those 3 Spider-Man were a lot more recent than pulling Keaton back out, but then he started showing like all the Christopher Reeves, like the Nick Cage. Yes, I think 95% of everyone who saw it wants to see more Nick Cage as Superman. Right? Yeah. No, is that he was fighting a giant? How sick was that though? Like
so the story behind Nick Cage fighting a giant spider is probably the best aspect of that story, because there is an actual reason why they did that, and that's
because it's the producer who had the rights to Superman at the time, and he had Kevin Smith as his screenwriter. And he goes, I got 3 things. I don't want to see him in that damn suit. I don't want to see him flying, which already I'm like, then why are we doing Superman? But okay. And he goes, and I need him to fight a spider in the 3rd act. What?
Yeah, because this producer had this weird. It was John Peters, I believe. John Peters was the producer that said that every production that he does has to have spiders in it, and that's why Wild Wild West had the spider thing for the bad guy, because this guy has this weird spider fetish. So,
did you do Arachnophobia as well?
I don't know, but there's concept art, there's old test footage, and all this stuff. Like from Superman Lives, there was a documentary, Superman, The Death of Superman Lives, What Happens by John Schnapp. This video breaks down that John Peters was a huge reason why this film died, because he kept making these crazy, like, you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this. They even tweaked the script to turn Brainiac into a spider monster so that this guy would be happy, and he still wasn't happy. And so the fact that in this cameo you have Nick Cage Superman fighting a giant spider is like a giant middle finger to the fact that the production died because Nick Cage was fighting a spider in every request, which is probably the most meta thing I've heard all week. I was like, that is the best.
Coolest thing. That was when I saw that on screen. I was like, all right, let's. I'm gonna need more of that.
Yeah. Okay, so I have a kind of a headcanon, kind of a idea in my head is that I think Zach would have been the kind of person to put spiders in the Man of Steel, but then Deborah caught of the notes, or she caught wind of the notes, and she's like, no, you're not doing that, because I love that woman. He does so much fan service, and then he doesn't realize that he's walking that tightrope line of legality, and she just pulls him back.
Yeah,
pulls him back.
But I mean, that cameo was fantastic. But what does that cameo do? I mean, what did all those cameos do? I mean, you had this whole sequence where they called it the Chronosphere, and the Chronosphere wasn't anything except for the Flash manipulating his own memories, going back in the timeline based on his memories. He wasn't going through a linear view of time or time itself. He was going through his branch of time based on his memories. And that's why you saw that it was jumping to each of the Chronospheres, that there was a Flash in another one of the Chronospheres doing the same thing, because it was showing that these spheres only exist in the Speed Force because other Flashes are doing something similar. And the whole point of all of that sequence was to show that Black Flash's manipulation of his Chronosphere to stop Keaton from dying, to stop Supergirl from dying, was just this another issue that other Flashes were also encountering, and they were causing these universes to collide with each other. It was meant to show that everything is canon and everything is fair game, because not only was there one Flash, but we saw another Flash, and we saw multiple Superman, because we saw multiple universes all fighting each other.
So they're all there. They're all out there. Could be used again in the future.
At any point.
at any point, if the Warner Brothers DC says, let's revisit this era,
let's do a proper Crisis movie, and then they can do it all again.
They could, because they just laid the groundwork there. If people go out and see it, it's all, everything DC is up for grabs right now, including creating a whole new universe. So,
and with everything that they did in this movie, yes, there was a lot of humor, there's a lot of ridiculousness, but if you looked past the humor, there was an explanation for everything, because they even multiple times Barry said, "Oh my God, now I understand why they all see me annoying," because he realized how he did things. They even showed Ezra's weirdo running in slow motion when he's trying to do it. He's like, "Wait, this is weird. This isn't working." Yeah. But they also did, one of the things that I really enjoyed was that they retread the origin storyline for Barry without doing it in flashback form. By having Barry say, "I'm in 2013 now, this is when I got my powers, I have to make sure you get your powers," they showed him recreating his origin, but without showing it via flashbacks, which I thought was probably the best way they could have done it. Because in Aquaman, they had him do his origin with another actor who was clearly probably the worst actor in the whole film. I have such a hard time with "You mean she died for me?" in this total bro moment. I'm like, oh my God, who's this kid? But they did this sequence to give Barry powers, to show this stuff. And the only flashback that we got was Barry saying, "I made my costume. I went to the Black Zero thing and I tried to save these people, but I didn't understand my powers enough. The dad died and I almost lost the kid because I didn't know what I was doing." And that was the only flashback we got of young Barry with his powers for the first time. Everything else was shown to us in real time, with older Barry explaining things to younger Barry, which was, I thought, a very fantastic way of doing it.
I thought the friction, I thought the friction burn clothing was my favorite part, actually.
That part was pretty funny. The awkward, like, whole city goes out. There's naked Miller with the camera, the lights from the helicopter on him, and then he shows up and with a pot around his junk, and then Barry's like telling him about how phasing works, and he phases through, and he's like, "Oh no,
you gotta let me finish my sentences." It was like, this is exactly,
yeah.
It was cool because you got to see how Barry probably was exactly without, like you said, revisiting the past or anything. So you saw Barry 2 go through everything that Barry 1 probably did, but without it being a flashback.
Right. And the lack of using flashbacks, I think, was probably one of the most interesting way of showing the origin, because most movies in this situation use heavy flashbacks. Yeah. So I was like, all right, this is pretty cool.
Like every
one moment that got Gabe to actually sit up and look over at me was when they made the Back to the Future reference, when he's like, "What the hell?" And I'm like, "They're going to explain it. They're going to explain it."
You probably saw a movie where there's a branch and
no, it was probably one of the best conversations when they said, "Oh, Back to the Future, it was played by this guy," and he's like, "No, it was Michael J. Fox." "You mean the guy from Footloose?" "No, that was Kevin Bacon." "No, he was the guy from Top Gun, that gay volleyball scene." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this universe is broken!" And I'm watching it, I'm just like, "Oh my gosh!" And that was funny. But honestly, I loved this movie. I thought this movie was a lot of fun. It was not perfect by a mile. It was riddled with the mistakes of the prior management, and you can see that the director did his job the best he could. And even when the management said this is not part of the Snyder Cut, he still fit all of those Easter eggs of the Snyder Cut into the film. He made the references. Iris saying, "I thought I saw you one other time since college." Oh, and then Batman he's like, "Oh, I time traveled." He's like, "You did it that 1 second, that one time when we were fighting Steppenwolf." He's like, No, this was different. Like, they made multiple references to Zack Snyder's Justice League as being the prime timeline that this movie was following from. But the fans are still crucifying it.
Like, the whole battle scene that they kept replaying, like, the first instance, the first death scene, I was just like kind of caught off guard. I was like, looked over to I was watching it, and I was like, that's my guy. He just, what? Then I realized
Batman just suicided into a ship. What happened? It was like,
I knew there was a force field. What? But then I was like, oh yeah, this is the Flash. He'll get another chance at this, and it just kept building up, and then
So I was told by a handful of people that there was actually a lot more deaths that were in the longer cut, and now that Andy Machete has said that his cut is 4 hours long, I want that cut. That's the cut I want to watch.
And didn't Sasha say that there were some of her like scenes that were kind of edited out because some of her like punches or things were too brutal? Like
like when she
pierced through like chests and stuff like that.
Like in the Supergirl prison break sequence, she apparently was a lot more violent with some of the guards and didn't know her own strength, so she was dismembering and stuff. So it was a lot more rated R. I was told by one of my contacts that there was a sequence where let me see if I can find it. I want to just get the verbatim because this was something that was pretty nuts. He talked about how Ezra oh my god, where is it? I'm gonna find it eventually. Keaton's big death is pretty intense, pissing blood out of his neck because his throat was just slit by Namek.
Wow.
So there was even one sequence where Namek, the big one that he was fighting, they had another hand-to-hand combat, and instead of him just killing him and just dying like, oh, I'm too old for this shit, like it was literally Namek took his neck out. So there was a lot of different takes, and you were supposed to see more than 2 or 3 deaths apiece. It was supposed to be like, okay, now I see why Barry is wanting to fix this, because it was supposed to be really jarring and really like, oh my gosh, this is a lot.
Damn, that
and as a
cool
product of the 80s, seeing Keaton die once was hard enough. Seeing him die twice was even worse. If I had to see 6 or 7 of his deaths in succession, I would have been like, I can't watch this movie.
Getting more and more brutal as they went along, and it'd be like, oh god, yeah, that was good. It was a good movie. It was a good movie. The more I keep thinking about it, I'm like, you know what? It still doesn't change like how I view it. Like how, you know, if you want to say the CGI, what's the one word I keep saying with it? Rubbery, like, and it's stretch it like he's running in hyperspeed. So it's like, I give a little leeway to CGI, like in movies like this, right?
And Andy said some of the CGI was intentionally weird because of the Speed Force. And I did talk to a couple of people who worked on the film, and they said that in certain scenes, the Speed Force distorts light, and that's what makes the details of everything around them look weird. And in particular, the Chrono Bowl stuff, some of it was supposed to look janky simply because this is the Speed Force manipulating his memories. And if you look back and try to remember details of someone's face, the face never is exactly the same. So it was meant to be a representation of the Flash's memories with the distortion of the Speed Force and the light refraction. And that makes total sense. But no one will ever be happy.
No, they'll just say that's just the excuse for not having it done, right? That's what it is.
Okay, so Chrono Ball, whatever, that's fine. Babies.
That part was, I was a little nervous the whole time. The most nervous was the microwave. Yeah, right. That was right. Are we all thinking the same thing? I was like, what are you thinking, dude?
And then later in the movie, when he explained that if he tries to move a physical body through speed, it will like make them vomit profusely and mess them up. So he had to put people inside of things and move the things. I'm like, okay, I get the logic now, but at the time of the scene, that's not what I was seeing. So I was like, why is he putting the baby in a box? What is happening?
No, I just, the uncanny valley of a baby, literally. Who was it? This is not my original thought. I'd seen it from somewhere else. It was
baby. Is that what?
No. That would have been an improvement. It is the American Sniper baby.
But that was a doll. Like we all know that.
So were they. So were these. So were these babies for most of the time. It was the American Sniper babies. I'm just saying. It's just. Yeah.
That scene was pretty. I was nervous for the first. They got me in the first half until he started eating a bunch of food.
But that's the thing though, is that, you know, like TJ said, this movie is enjoyable. It was enjoyable. It is enjoyable. And is it perfect? Not even close. But I don't go to movies for perfect. I go to movies for, am I going to want my $10 back? And the answer was no. I spent good money on wildly expensive food that's there. I sat down. I didn't complain about it. That's what I'm looking for. Do I want every movie to be Endgame or, Snyder Justice League? No, because if every movie is that type of tentpole, then there's just too much. Yeah, then nothing is. So I want a few Quantum Mania type movies to go through there. Everyone seemed to not like it. I finally got to watch it when it did come on Disney Plus, and I have to say that I should have watched it in the theater. Like, it that enjoyable that I should have watched it in the theater. Am I going to buy the 4K Blu-ray? No. I show support of movies in different ways, and physical media is one of them. But again, I like this movie. It was enjoyable. It's a good 3 of 5 stars. That's what it is.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna spend another $10 watching it again next weekend because my brother hasn't seen it and my sister-in-law wants to see it too. So I'm like, yeah, why not? So it's a fun movie, and I told him yeah, it's a fun movie. We're gonna have a good time watching it. Buy some popcorn, maybe some chicken tenders, and just just enjoy.
Spend
just a
more
fun
money.
Movie. It's heartfelt. It's fun, and especially my brother is 5 years older than me. Obviously, Keaton fans, right? So if you like Batman, you like Flash, you like DC movie. It's a fun DC movie. He doesn't, like Gabe said, it doesn't need to be There Will Be Blood. It doesn't need to be, Dancing
Not
with
every
Wolves.
movie needs to be Citizen
It doesn't need
Kane.
to be a 5-star. You don't need a 3-hour The Batman dark realistic to make everything always edgy. We wanted darker, more serious DC movies, but you don't need every single movie to be that same tone, or else it's just monotone.
But that's what the Elseworld tag is for. I purposely believe that Gunn knows it. Gunn will probably acknowledge it and just let them keep going with Elseworld being that 3-hour comic epic that takes
rated R movie.
That takes that grittier comic book style, and it's like, you know what? I've got leeway to run with it. Let's run with it.
Yeah. What I think is probably the most, the fact that people aren't giving this a chance, I watched this movie, and yes, there were some silly jokes, there was some bad CGI, but literally every scene with Barry and his mom was some of the most emotional stuff that DC has done on film. And especially that last sequence at the end where he's in the supermarket with his mom. I watched that and I'm just like, oh my God, I'm going to start crying. I cannot handle this. It was a really sad scene. And the fact that Barry slowed down time so he could hold on to his mom for a little bit more was okay, this is it. This was the guy who couldn't say goodbye to his mom. And now he's saying goodbye to her. And he's trying to hold as many more seconds as he can with her before he does what he knows has to be done. This movie did something that the other movies have never done. And this is the kind of emotional weight that I know that DC is capable of, because this is the emotional weight that James Gunn is capable of, because he does this in every one of his movies. In Guardians of the Galaxy 3, there was a lot of moments exactly like this one. In Guardians 2, there was a lot of stuff exactly like this one. This is what he does. This is when James Gunn is told to make a ridiculous movie, he will find a way to put some crazy heartfelt moment just like this one into the film, just so that he can satisfy his emotional need to make the story worth it.
Yeah.
And even in the Suicide Squad, you had this movie where you're like, okay, this is ridiculous. You have them all fighting this giant starfish with a spear, and then you have Ratcatcher, who has this whole thing with her dad about lowly creatures and why they're important, and you're like, oh wow, okay, there's the heart moment where you didn't expect to see this happen. So I see this and I look at fans who are like, oh, this movie sucks. I'm like, then you're missing the point, because this movie is, yes, it's a lot of fan service. It's probably fan service for the wrong generation, I'll admit, because the fans who want to see this, who want their old Batman back, don't want Keaton because they didn't grow up with Keaton. They want Christian Bale or something else. Like that's the truth of it. But I mean, all the Batmans that showed up in this film were for different audiences.
Yeah.
So it's like
you got everything. You got everything in this movie.
Yeah, but I firmly think that people are shitting on this movie just because they're looking for someone to blame, and just like happened with Shazam 2 and what happened with Black Adam, all they've done is guaranteed that the reboot is the way that they're going to move forward. Because
they're gonna have to just, their reboot is gonna, for corporate side, is to cut out this faction that is just review bombing and just so vocal about how nothing other than
their one myopic view of what DC should be.
Right. Like I get it. The Snyderverse should have just had its chance to run and reboot on its own. It's a bummer we don't get it, but it's not. We're not the Flash. We're not going back in time to change anything.
But do you know whose fault that is? It's not James Gunn's. It's not Peter Safran's. It's not David Zaslav's. His fault is it was Toby Emmerich, and he was already fired. So the villain that everyone's looking for is already gone. He got fired without severance. Like, what else do you want? I mean, this guy's blacklisted by Hollywood for running a company to the ground. He's not getting picked up anywhere.
Not good enough, though.
Not good enough, because they want their blood from a stone as well as the corpse on the ground. They want more. And
we all want more, but at some point it's, stomping your feet, demanding what you want. We used to call that a spoiled brat growing up, but that's like
that's everyone nowadays.
You just can't have everything that you want. You can try, you can work hard at it, but the way that this is going, it's just it just puts a bad mouth. I can tell from producers, directors. Now, if you're telling me, people that worked on the CGI, the VFX team for the Flash, are hearing what the fans are saying about their work, and it's just the same people that worked with Zack. So it's like
the same people that worked on Zack Snyder's Justice League, and now they're pissed. They're like, these fans allowed us the chance to give a movie, and now they're shitting on our next movie. What the hell? Were these fans not with us, or they just want their own thing?
Yeah.
Like,
it's a sad moment era right now, and it just kind of screams reboot to kind of just get a whole different fan base. And if that's the case, then that's what they're going to do. So
that's what's going to happen. I mean, they've said it before that if a movie is profitable, it'll get a sequel. Black Adam wasn't profitable. It didn't get a sequel. Shazam 2 wasn't profitable. Won't get a sequel. The Flash already had a sequel written and ready to go with the Reverse Flash explaining who killed Barry's mom in the kitchen.
And they leaked it, so make everyone try and be like, is there going to be a sequel, to go watch it? But
at the pace that it's going right now, no. This is the end of it. And just like every single time, now it's I don't even know if it's general audience's fault. I think it's everyone who's on social media putting everyone in this mindset that The Flash is a terrible movie.
Yeah. It's not a terrible movie. It's not the best, but it's damn good, and it's
far better than half the other comic book movies that are out there.
Yeah.
That make billions of dollars.
Yes. It's an easier watch than Aquaman, and Aquaman made $1 billion. Right? Like I.
Whoa! I liked Aquaman.
I liked Aquaman too.
But I also
long and just.
I also felt that Aquaman was just a really awkward standalone movie until you got Snyder's version of the Justice League.
Yeah.
And even then it was like half like canon, half not canon, and it was a good movie. I think I prefer watching the Flash. I could watch the Flash again easier than I could Aquaman.
True, but I also like looking at Amber Heard though too.
Yeah, but she's going to be shelved for 90% of the next movie. So,
well, then I'm breaking into the editing room and getting all the stuff off the cutting room floor.
But the thing is right now, so this movie is sitting at like a $250 million budget, give or take. Production, marketing budget probably puts, if for it to break even, it's probably got to sit somewhere in the 450 to 500 mark. Right now, it's about 140 million, and it's just on day 4. The movie's not going to end its theatrical run for another like 4 to 5 weeks. It's going to break even, and then it's going to be just that's it.
That's the other sad thing about theatrical runs is that I remember for the Avengers specifically that I have watched that and purchased more tickets for the Avengers than any other movie still to this day. But it was only because I was working at an Amazon call center and we had a theater that was half a block away.
Yeah.
So if I got off of work and I was like, I'm bored, what do I want to do? I'll go watch the Avengers again. But it was there for a good 9 months. It just stayed there in normal rotation.
I did that for Maverick recently just because that was in theaters forever. And I just said, you know what? What's a good movie to watch in theaters? Maverick's still in there. I'm going to go watch it again. You know, like,
but Maverick is the modern exception because
yes,
no theatrical run is that long. Because the unfortunate part is that everyone's trying to speed run a recovery from COVID, and they're like, well, if you're not going to make us X amount of dollars by this time, you're out the door and you're no longer on a screen. So the unfortunate part is that
helped Maverick was that
it was a damn good movie.
Other than all the comic book superhero movies that we have, Tom Cruise is the actual last action hero. No pun intended to Arnold, but this guy's the last action hero that we got going on, and he makes big movies that are made for theaters, and his movies stay in theaters longer because he wants it to stay in theaters to get people to go to the theater and enjoy his movies multiple times, which I did. Because after you see you didn't see Quantumania just because you weren't sure, and then it came on Disney Plus because you knew how fast those movies turn and burn in the theaters and go straight to streaming. Right? Like I know I don't need to watch any Marvel movie in theaters unless it's something I really want to see because I know it'll just come on streaming in like 2 months. Maverick was like, yeah, we might go to streaming, but it's still in theaters. In fact, we're going to keep it in theaters for a whole nother month. I'm like, oh, sweet. I get to watch Maverick again on a giant screen. Let me do it again. So
I regret not being able to watch that in IMAX because our local Atmos screen, I believe, is only 42 feet wide. So it's like a quarter the size of an IMAX screen. But even that was just like, I loved it every single time going to watch that.
My wife and I went and saw Top Gun Maverick. We loved it. And then we went to go see another movie shortly after. And they messed up in the theater and they put Maverick on again. And it was funny because we're all sitting there and like the intro starting, the highway to the danger zone, and we're like, okay. And then they're like, sorry, everyone. And they stopped it. And I'm like, no, give it 5 more minutes. Give it 5 more minutes. And like everyone in the theater was like, no, boo, let the intro finish.
Yeah, let me watch the giant jet go. Let me hear you say, talk to me,
finish
Goose,
the
one
song.
more time.
Finish the song.
Yeah.
It's the best B-roll in cinema.
Yeah. But the thing is, this movie will go the way of Shazam, will go the way of Black Adam if it doesn't start picking up its momentum, because theaters drop movies that don't maintain momentum. Yeah. And we know that this movie is going to be going to physical release in September. That they already dated it. It's going to be middle of September. It's going to be physical release. So no matter what, it has a cutoff point of September. That's still 2.5, 3 months from now. So if this movie, I don't know,
needs a strong month right now.
It does. And unfortunately, the fans aren't even giving it a chance right now because they think that Zack Snyder's universe needs to be respected. But what happens this weekend when Zack sees the movie and tweets about it saying that he loved it? What happens then? Does the narrative all of a sudden change? Does everyone start go see the movie because Zack gave it a standards approval?
Probably.
Because it's the most idiotic thing, because these fans have basically held a studio hostage for years in the name of Zack Snyder, and they're doing more damage than anything else.
Going on 3 years. Like, and we were all about it. Like, we were very supportive. We were stoked when it happened. We were thankful when we got it, and then
I mean, I got the press ticket to watch it early, and I watched it like 5 days before everyone else. And I was telling you all, like, here's a clip of the movie. Oh my gosh, this is amazing. This is amazing. Had my name across the whole thing because I couldn't leak it because they stamped everyone's name on the cuts of it. But I loved it to pieces. I showed it to my wife. I showed it to my kids. I was like, let's keep watching this movie on repeat.
Yeah.
I've got the Warner Brothers screener app. It's going to be fantastic. I had to put in that little code they mailed me. It was, I loved it, and I raved about it, and I talked to Days about it. And it was like, this was what we fought for. It was exciting. We gave Zack Snyder his cathartic movie. And yes, there was drama behind the scenes. Toby Emmerich screwed Zack over one too many times. Zack signed an exclusive deal with Netflix, and that's where it ended.
Yeah.
And now fans are pissed that's where it ended. And instead of attacking Toby Emmerich, instead of attacking the people that are actually responsible, the studio got sold to another studio. Everyone got fired. And now they're holding the new studio hostage again. And they're not even involved in the situation. It's like... what more?
It's tiring, right? Like, at this point,
it's
I'm just
so tiring.
Like I get it. People want what they want, and they're gonna kick and scream until they. I don't know. I don't know if they're gonna get it. Maybe they will.
No,
it'll be years from now, right? Well,
what's gonna happen?
What's Zach's contract with Netflix? How long? Till 2025?
It is what it is, because his initial contract was over, but then now he's still finishing his Rebel Moon universe and still has to go back to his Army of the Dead stuff. So no matter what, 2025 is a very conservative date. He's probably going to be there till 27 or later.
Yeah,
because he's got a lot he's doing.
So that's a lot of time going to Twitter and being pissed off at the world for another 4 more years to maybe get a chance to strong arm another studio into bringing them back. I don't know.
But what's going to happen is if the studio fails now, if the reboot comes out and the fans boycott the reboot to oblivion, what do you think Warner Brothers is going to do with DC at that point?
Either end it or reboot it again and just
they'll sell it. They'll move on. They'll wash their hands of it. They'll give it to someone who doesn't need it and make it worse. They'll sell it to Disney, and then we'll have Disney's version of DC.
Whoa. That sounds bad. Yeah, never mind. Yeah.
So fans need to remember that boycotting and all this stuff, it doesn't work the way they think it does. I mean, I keep pointing out that everyone was pissed off at The Last Jedi, so they boycotted Solo, and boycotting Solo caused that whole franchise to die. And
this boycotting stuff
it doesn't work the way they think it works.
Have you watched a couple of the new episodes of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia? Sorry, side note, because there's one of the new seasons, Dee's like protesting things and like trying not to get thrown out of her house, and she just glues her hand to a wall. Wherever she goes, she starts gluing her hand to a wall. And this basically, she gets kicked out of her place. She goes to Frank and Charlie's place, glues her hand there, gets kicked out of there, goes to Dennis and Mac's place, glues her hand over there. This is what they're doing. Some of these guys are boycotting, gluing their hands to the new studios, and just, I don't know. It's just not it's tiring. It's tiring to see at this point.
Well, so the difference is that the Zack Snyder Justice League, or the Restore the Snyderverse, when it first was implemented, it was a grassroots campaign of fans who were interested in getting other fans to back them so that they can get their voice heard. Now it's a hostage situation. It's not the same.
No.
When the people who started that initial campaign, like, I was probably one of the first 50 people involved in this campaign when it started. And I know a handful of other people who were there. I know people that were on the original announcement panel that Zach had on Vero when he announced the film. When I see these people all say, I can't be a part of this anymore, that's when you know that what it is now is not what they all intended it to be.
Not what it was.
Initially, the idea was for creative freedom and allowing Zach to finish his movie. And now it's holding a studio hostage to make movies that Zach cannot make while he's working with Netflix. It's like, what do you want him to do? Do you want him to stop having creative freedom and pay back the money Netflix paid him and be in default on his contract so that he can make a movie that the studio... What do you want? I mean, honestly, what do you want? Because Zach, the studio, all of them, it's not possible right now.
Right. We all wish it was possible. Let the record be clear. We all wish it could happen. It's just not in the cards right now. It's just
and then what'll happen is the studio will tell Zach, hey, make your animated feature, make your 6-hour long animated project finishing your entire story. And
guess
then
what?
The fans
Not
will
good enough.
exactly. The fans will be like, that wasn't what we wanted. We wanted live action, but we don't care how we get it. Like, no matter what, no one's going to be happy. And that's why the studio is like, you know what, maybe we should just cut our losses and move on. Because if they're not going to be happy with anything we do, even if we give them what they want, then let's not waste our time or money and let's just move on.
Yeah.
Or we can just speed up the process for Army of the Dead 2, Battle of Mexico City, because I want to see that.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that movie's going to be...
Mind you, I'm still going to go kicking and screaming when Taylor drags me to the theater because I don't do well with a horror movie. Sorry.
No, you are the typical Mexican man who is very against Los Spookies, and Los Spookies are not allowed in your life. And Los Spookies are something you stay away from. You're not a part of the fuck around and find out mentality. You're part of the avoid Los Spookies at all possibility because Los Spookies can hurt me. Yeah. And the fact that I got you to see that movie, you the whole time we're watching it, you're like, I hate you. Like, I don't want to see this. I'm like, it's a zombie movie. The Los Spookies are zombies, and you're like, I don't care. But it was still. You still saw it. You still supported Zach, and that's what mattered.
Yep, still do.
And I will continue to support Zach on whatever Zach does. Zach makes Rebel Moon Part 7. I will see it the moment it comes out. Because me supporting Zach doesn't mean I'm wishful thinking and demanding a studio give Zach something that I want. It's me supporting Zach in what he wants. And he wants to make these movies, and I'm going to support Zach in what he wants to do. If Zach tomorrow said, I want to make Justice League 3, hell yeah, let's do it. I will support Zach. I will also start campaigning. But until he says that that's what he wants, and he says he's not happy with Netflix anymore, then I'm going to follow Zach where he's happy.
Right.
I want studio productions back to the way they were, like before the year 2000, where you didn't have to feed fans behind the scenes clips. Because I think I posted this yesterday, but I really do want to see Rebel Moon. I will go see it the first week it comes out in theater because I know he'll want it in the theater.
Theatrical release. It is getting
perfect.
A Netflix theatrical run.
I will be there. Right
That's
now, the finished VX, like 5 or 6 second clip at the end of his behind the scenes looks like Serenity. I'm sorry, that's what it looks like to me. But
to be fair, Joss Whedon being a horrible human being aside, Firefly and Serenity are fantastic. So,
but that's the thing, like that's great. But if we could just wait till October or September to drop a trailer, and then drop a final trailer at the end of November, I would be much happier with that rather than the current state of Hollywood where we have to drop behind the scenes things a year in advance.
Yeah. What was that? Was it the I always mispronounce it. Is it Ghibli Studios where they came out and they just said that they were going to do
Studio Ghibli. Their final movie with Hayao Miyazaki is going to get no trailers, no posters, no anything. It's going to premiere on its release date, and it's going to have no prior marketing, which is the most baller thing I've ever seen a studio do. They're like, we know what we are. We know what we are.
That in itself is marketing. I'm like, but they gave you no marketing. They like, you can't just say like, oh, that's marketing. Like, oh, that's not marketing.
Like, that's amazing. They're like
multiple
Hayao Miyazaki's last film comes out on Friday. What's it called? You will find out on Friday, bitch. like that's amazing to me.
Yeah. It's a glorified studio note to all the Hollywood press saying, hey guys, we know you love him. Everyone loves him. Dare you to find a person who does not love this man. Oh, by the way, he's doing one last film. And unfortunately, we're not giving you anything until the day it comes out. That's done. Awesome.
And it's probably going to be one of the best animated movies of all time. And that's the truth of it. Because every movie he pumps out is pure gold. So, yeah.
Right. And just seeing too many trailers on TV, like over the last, like you said, like 20 years or so, it's just like you do get a lot. You get too much. You get too much in trailers at this point.
Get burned out by it.
Yeah. Good, yeah.
But on that note, everyone, we have spent an hour and 25 minutes talking about that we all liked The Flash. We all think you should see The Flash. The current state of superhero politics is annoying, and they're not doing anyone any favors. So if you want movies to continue to happen, stop boycotting movies.
Just watch it. Just give it a chance.
Watch the movie.
Just give it a chance.
But if I pissed you off, go ahead and let me know in the comments. I'll read the comment and I'll be like, oh no, okay. If you agree with me, if you disagree with me, let's have a discussion, because I believe the best way to get your point across is to not be an asshole, but to have a discussion. If you have a different opinion, let's have this conversation, because I will say what I have to say. I will let you say what you have to say, but let's have a discussion. And for those of you who want to help us keep the lights on, head over to patreon.com/theculturednerd. Support us in what we do. For those of you who do support us, big thank you for always being there and having our backs. I have been your host, Taylor Murphy. Michael Santel's not with us today because he hasn't seen The Flash yet, and I would not allow him to be a part of this conversation. So I brought TJ and Gabe along with me because they saw it, and that was what mattered to me. So thank you for joining us. And if you're at home, scan that QR code. Come harass me on social media. For those of you who don't know the internal drama right now, I am the Cultured Nerd on Instagram only. Gabe is the Cultured Nerd on Twitter now because he apparently doesn't give a fuck about trolls and he will fight you. So he is helping me fight the trolls. So he is the one you'll be talking to if you start picking fights on Twitter, and he gives no shit. So he will fight back.
It's been an easy first 24 hours, and I say that knowing that someone's gonna come at me and be like, "Oh, okay." You know what?
Ironically, though, I did peek into the Twitter about an hour ago, and I saw that we lost like 60 followers, and I'm like, these are the assholes that were just wanting to fight me. So as soon as I left, they left too. So I was like, all right, perfect. He's going to have it easy. I should have just said I was going to leave and never left, but whatever. But thank you all for joining us. Scan that QR code. Come bug me on Instagram. Go bug Gabe on Twitter. And we will see you all next time. Thank you so much.